Go.
Hello, my name is Elijah Goins. This is for AVIA course 225, and this is the video presentation on lift. Lift is essential for all aircrafts. First, we're going to go to our first diagram, homemade, and there are four forces acting at any time during a flight. All four forces are always acting. You have thrust, which is versus drag, and lift versus weight, which is each of these at any point in the flight is greater or lesser than the other or equal to. But we're going to focus on lift. First things first, you have to know that lift must be greater than weight, the weight pulling the aircraft down. But how does this lift occur? How do you ask? Well, the answer that I did not come up with is what we call a Venturi, made by Bernoulli. So this is also known as the Bernoulli principle. So what Bernoulli did is he took a pipe, much like this one, and had a larger circumference of the pipe at one end come to a smaller circumference and then back to a larger. And he hooked a pressure gauge to each of these circumferences. And then he pushed a fluid through there. Air is a fluid, water is a fluid, those kind of things. And he found that once he started pushing these fluids through here, at the beginning, at the wider area, they had the stable high pressure. And then once it went into the lower, thinner area, it started becoming much quicker and had a lower pressure. And then once it goes back out to the wider area, it went back to high pressure. So what he found is that a Venturi, somewhat of this hump, whenever a fluid goes over a Venturi, it speeds up and lower pressure occurs. Well, with all of this in mind, we'll take a look at the wing shape of the airplane. So the airplane has what is called an airfoil. An airfoil is a very uniquely crafted thing. It's somewhat based up on birds, but we're not going to talk about fowls at this moment. The wing shape, I will zoom up on this so you can see it a little better. The wing shape is very specific on the way it is made. There's also a chord line, an imaginary line from the leading edge of an airfoil to the trailing edge of an airfoil. And that comes in later when we start talking about relative wind. But when a fluid, such as air, goes over an airfoil, it hits this Venturi shape right here at the front and causes a lower pressure and higher speeds over the top of this wing. We call this a low pressure area. And then the air that hits the wing and goes underneath, we call this a positive pressure area, because technically the air that goes underneath the wing is also a lower pressure than the relative wind, but it's not as low as the low pressure on top. So we call this a positive pressure area. And so as air flows over this and there is a lower pressure on top, the higher pressure underneath starts to push the wing up. Now there's several other effects such as the Coanda effect and slipstream, not slipstream, downwash, downwash that all play effects in lift and along with vortices that cause an upward motion. But this general understanding of lift, that there's a lower pressure on top and a higher pressure underneath because of a Venturi tube, is the basics on why lift works. But how do you get such air going over there? The answer is thrust. Once thrust happens, the air starts moving over the airfoils much quicker.